One of the things that I find is a lot of people are in transition right now, and we're being pulled onto a path that's more aligned with who we are and away from old patterns of behaving, maybe for a long time. Maybe this has been 10, 20, 30 years that we've been holding ourselves in certain positions and being very task driven, duty driven, or driven by what we were raised to be. And one of the things that typically happens to us throughout our lives is we go through these transition points. And so one of these is, when you leave college and enter the work world, we think of that traditionally, but actually around the age of 28 to 30, 29, usually around 28 or 29 years old, we go through our Saturn return. And that's the first time that we begin to crystallize and define who we came here to be. And especially if that's different or has some contrast with what we were raised to be. Typically, that's the time that we begin to break free. Then we have another transition in our early to mid 40s, which is the Uranus opposition. And that's when we just want to bust out of any cubicles we've been placed in for all of these years, especially if we didn't really do it or we're doing it in a different way. The Saturn return is more identifying a role and a position that we want to identify with or crystallize, or maybe become a parent or get married or something like that around that time. But in our early 40s, around 42, 44, we're becoming very rebellious about how the roles that we've chosen have actually become stagnant for us. And we feel like we're wearing a mask, and we don't want to be wearing a mask anymore. And so that's what happens to a lot of people. We think of this as the midlife crisis that starts around age 42, but it continues forward, because then when we're around 50 years old, we have our Chiron return. And this is a time that's very tender, and it's very very sensitive. It can make us be hyper aware of everything that we think is broken about us, everything we've been trying to cover up all these years. And we really think it's just a brokenness that we possess that's actually a strength. And that's what the Chiron return is about, coming to terms with this thing that we feel very fragile and self-protective around. It's a part of ourselves we've judged. And as we continue forward, we keep having these wake-up moments. There's also a time in our early to mid-60s that is a wake-up moment. We keep getting awakened to what is your purpose, how do you need to course correct, where are you right now on your path. And so it's no surprise to me when clients are like, wow, I've been doing this thing for many years and I feel kind of like I'm in the groove with it, but I'm bored. And I know I need a change. I want something else, but I've never allowed myself to think outside that frame. So even though we have these little wake-up moments, sometimes we get stuck in a groove. And that's why we need these wake-up moments every decade at least, to remind us that we have free will to change, to have an influx of inspiration, have something that we innovate. Maybe, maybe we cancel everything and say, I'm going to travel around the world now. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to express this part of myself before it's too late. So if you're someone who is you don't have to be one of these ages I mentioned to be in transition, because we have many, many transitions as well. But the thing about transition is it's going to have a lot of blankness, sometimes unfamiliarity. We're not going to feel comfortable. Who moved my food dish? And there's a part of us, even though we're bored and even though we feel stagnated, we want to stay there. We don't want to branch out. we don't want to go into something new because it's unfamiliar. But life is literally about growing new limbs all the time. It's about changing all the time. So I have a couple of suggestions. If you feel yourself feeling antsy and bored, but not ready to make a move because you think you don't know what you want yet, the first is to give yourself some space. Chances are you're a person who has put your own desires and your, I don't always use the word passion, but something that you feel very exhilarated in and excited to do and that really lights you up. Maybe you've put that part of yourself on the back burner for a lot of years. And in service to the duties that you've given yourself and the role that you've been playing. And so the first step is to create space in your schedule, physical space, to have some nothingness, some blankness, some space. Like, what does it feel like to have some space and not be fully scheduled? What does it feel like to have some time to yourself that's not occupied by your duties and the obligations that you're used to? So you first want to create physical, and time on the calendar space. And the next thing is to do a little something adventuresome. It can be like go on a half-day trip somewhere that you've never been, take a course you've never done, work with someone in a new way that you've never done. You can take a meditation class, a yoga class, or something that's outside. Maybe you want to take a class in something different. But try actively go out of your comfort zone, because if you don't do it, no one else will really do it for you, because often when we need to make a change, there's nobody around us that's really in agreement with that. They're like, oh no, that's okay. You stay right where you are, because then I'll know who I am if you stay exactly who you are. But if there's a restlessness and a boredom and a sense of stagnation, you already know that it's time to make a change. So you have to create the space to create that change, to allow something new to come up for you. So lightening your schedule. If you're used to working the 5-day week, start taking a day off if you can, so that you can experience that blankness and that space that wants to be filled with something new, some new inspiration, something new for you. And the second thing is go on an adventure. It can be studying something new, take a language. You want to invite change, so you can choose change. And I always say to my clients, no matter what age they are, you have your whole life ahead of you, and it doesn't matter what your age is. And what you're looking for is going to be outside of the comfort zone that you're currently in. So you want to just nudge your subconscious a little bit by trying some things that are outside of your comfort zone. Otherwise, there's a part of you feeling like you're going to drown in boredom and drown in sameness and feel like you're not living the full potential. And think of it this way, because we're on a timeline in life, we're not going to be everything all the time. We're going to be some things, and then we're going to change it up. And that's why we have chapters in our lives, so we can experience different things in different chapters. You don't have to do it all at once, but maybe you're in a moment where you need to choose something new for you. And so I invite you to be proactive with this, not expect. The signal that you're getting from your higher self is, I'm restless and bored. I feel stagnant. I yearn for something else, but I've never allowed myself to even know what that is. That's the message. Don't expect life to necessarily tell you what you desire if you've never gone in to desire it. You need to create the space and the opportunity to have that desire kind of come up from inside you. And it's going to involve new people in your life. It's going to involve new experiences and new space, so that you're not all crowded and scheduled and cluttered up with the old. So I hope this is helpful. reach out to me with what you're going through with transition. I would love to hear what of this lands for you. And I'll talk to you soon.